The colors we are starting with the black. Let me get all these over to the side and out of the way. We are starting with the color Leaf. And we are starting with Night Owl. So what I'm doing is I have both of those over to the side. I'm going to knot them together. Now for this project you want, get everything out of the way here. You don't want to start it at this end or this end. You want it kind of in the middle because we are double knitting. And when you're double knitting, it is a lot easier to do it in the middle of the loom, because typically it's harder to do double knitting flat because your yarn's going to be getting tangled in the pegs as you are working it. So I typically will actually hold it like between my legs, like in between my knees, to work on it. So you want to find the middle part, which I did. I counted down 18 pegs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's the peg I'm going to start on. And then you count down, it's 27 pegs wide. So from here to here is where we're going to be working it, and that gives you plenty of room on both edges to hold the loom. To do the cast on, I actually went ahead and done one collar, just so you don't have to sit through me doing it, because it does take a couple minutes. But what I did was I knotted both my collars together, which we are starting with Leaf and Night Owl. And what I did is I had a little marking the pegs that I'm using, just so that I'll know for my cast on. But what we're doing is I tied a knot and I just anchored this up here because I didn't want to waste all the extra yarn of having it up here and wrapped around. So I just anchored it there. And all we're doing is just like a zigzag. We're getting every other peg all the way down, which I can hold it like this and make it go a lot faster. And there we go. And then I will just kind of hook that down there. These we will push down. And now we take our scrap yarn and you place it on both sides. Okay, get it go down in between there on this side and down in between on this side. And make sure it's not wrapped around any pegs or anything. And then just so it doesn't come undone, I just tie it, just doing a little bow. And there you go. Now, for our next row, we are actually going to start our chart. So we will do row 1 of the chart here. So you'll need your row counter. And I'm going to take a moment to explain how to do this chart. Now for the chart, I prefer to have something to block off the rows below it. So take a couple paper clips and hook it to your paper you print out, and then you can just easily move it down, and all the rows are numbered so you can keep track with your row counter. But you're going to be switching collars for the different sides. I'll try to explain this and then I'll show it to you, and hopefully it all makes sense. So for here, the chart's only 25 pegs wide. We are cast on 27. And why that is you'll have one row before and after that will stay one solid collar through your whole chart. That way you can easily know where you're at, because you'll use that first and the last peg will be the same collar as your blank pegs, your blank squares. So how you read this is the numbers across the top correspond to your peg numbers. So 1 through 25 are 1 through 25 of the marked pegs. And then 1 through 12, well actually it's 1 through 11 are your rows. So let's kind of get started with this. Might be easier to explain as I work the row. So I'll have that blocked off. Oh, wrong way. Now, since this, typically with charts like this where you're going back and forth from one side to the next, you would start on this side for this row and opposite side, but this chart is exactly symmetrical. So it's completely symmetrical, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay, so, oops, accidentally undone. Make sure you don't undo your last row. There we go. Now, with this project, you do slip the first stitches, which would be these ones right here. Now, whichever way you start, it doesn't matter. I am just going to cross them over one time. And, well, actually, look. Okay, so I've got a black stitch on this one and a green stitch on this one. So this side, all of the empty squares will be black and all the ones that are X'd will be the green. On this side, all the X'd ones will be black and all of the empty ones will be green. Basically how that works is we got our peg 2, which is actually peg 1 on here. I'll fix that for the PDF. That one is green. So then we need 5 that are black. Now what you do is you just twist it however many times you need to get to the right collar. For that we only need to twist once. But for the next one, if we twist once, it'll be green. So we got to twist it 2 times to be black again. And then you can move it back and forth just to get it in the middle. Now, one thing I do suggest is when you're twisting them, whichever way you twist it the first time, for the first ones, twist it opposite for the second. That way you don't end up having to take and unwind your strands because they are just knotted together really bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So then we have one green one. There's the X. And then we go back to the black, and we will have 5. And if they're not exactly even, see how that one, oh, sorry. This one comes out a little farther. If they're not exactly even, that's okay. It won't make a huge difference. You just want to have it close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'll show you the change just one more time. Just over one time. And then for the next one, we just need it over one time. But now we got to have 5 in a row. That this side's black and this side's the green. So we got 1. And notice I am twisting it one way and then I will twist it the opposite for the next row just so they stay symmetrical. Well, not symmetrical, just so that the yarn, I don't have to unwind it later. There we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I go back to the green. Finish out the row. When I get to the last pegs, I'll take those bottom loops over the top all the way down, and then I just keep following the chart until I am almost done with row 11. Then I'll show you how to join and change collars. The cast on is complete. I just wanted to show you what it looks like. At this point, you can go ahead and undo that knot and take your tool here. Just pull it down below. Just leave it down there. And now I'll go ahead and get started on the second row, row number 2, which got row 1